It's just fine.
Yeah,
you wear the black and it just all blends in. Hello, everyone.
We got name tags this time.
What's up, everybody?
That's right. So, welcome to I'd Back That RPG, where we talk about Kickstarters, especially RPG-based Kickstarters. So, I'm here today with...
Hey, I'm Brendan Carrion from Full Metal RPG, the podcast.
And...
Adam Sink from Full Metal RPG podcast as well.
Also a podcast.
That's right. And which... You guys are like experts on RPGs, so, well, you're like, ooh.
About that.
I feel like you guys are experts.
Self-proclaimed, but sure.
You guys are really in the RPG scene, and like, I mean, you guys I go to Gen Con and I play board games. You go to Gen Con and you play RPGs, so you're in the scene.
RPGs,
mostly run RPGs. Sometimes we hang out with RPG designers and shake their hands and schmooze and try to
give them high fives.
Try to like get like a little selfie with them and that kind of thing. But definitely, it's all RPGs.
Okay.
All RPGs all the time.
Well, today we have a special show where we're talking about zines. And me, I love RPGs, but I am not as in-depth into RPGs as you guys. So what the heck are zines?
Zines are like little fan-made publications. They really, zines comes from magazines. So we say zines. Not zines, even though it looks like vines.
I keep on saying zines, guys. I'm sorry.
It's a common mistake. The apostrophe or whatever is implied.
Right.
But it's really the idea, the core idea is that it's something you make yourself.
Right.
It's a rule set that you write. It's a concept that you want to put together, and that it's low cost to make, and it's an effort of creativity. It's really heavily invested in DIY culture and like personal expression. And there used to be a lot of them a long time ago.
They're usually short form, and they're kind of after that punk aesthetic. You'll get some of them are more polished, but a lot of times they just kind of have like this really raw kind of punk feel to them when you're looking at them.
The concept of polish is actually something that there's been like a little bit of blowback on in the zine community. Like Adam Vass, who was on last week talking about his game Cobwebs. I was listening to the podcast he was on, and he was talking about Zine Quests too, and he was like, yo, can we start making like less high quality zines? Like, I'd love to see some like real old school, made it on a copy machine.
Oh my goodness.
With like not full bleed, you know what I'm saying? Because that's how it used to be. Now everybody it's so easy to get things printed. It's so the access to things like that is it's like so much more like in our face.
You have Publisher, you got Photoshop, you got all these tools available to you to make them look really slick.
And I want to say hi to everybody in our comments that we have today. I'm seeing Kabuki Kid. We have Bill Edmunds, and I thought I saw somebody else up there. I can't remember. Battle Cry. That's right.
Battle Cry.
Thanks for coming out and talking to us. So that's really interesting that there's a little bit of blowback with them being too polished, where coming from a more board game perspective, like I want more polished. Like it's a small, tiny book, but I want it to look like an actual book. Like whenever I break it out and everything, not... Like, I want color pictures. Like, that's the sort of thing that interests me as being not fully in-depth into the RPG community, but, like, hanging out on the outskirts.
Because you're not punk.
I mean, Adam's making a joke.
Not punk enough. Hello, Mike.
But I think he actually...
And RBK.
He's hey, is RBK here?
Yeah,
what up? But, I think...
We have Gerard. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. That's why Richard doesn't like me. I'm too polished, says Dr. Gloryhogg. Wow. Well, in the RPG community, that's really interesting because you would think to pull in new people that you want it to be more fresh looking because...
I think there's a balance here. Mm-hmm. Like there people aren't turning away the polished ones. Some of the ones that we're going to be showing the audience tonight are very polished, very slick, and super beautiful products. But I think that there's like an element within the RPG scene, and really when you're talking about zines and then like indie zines and like gritty zines, you're like zooming in on like much like incredibly micro segments of that population, and some of them are just really into that DIY kind of almost hipster aesthetic, right?
It's true.
Hipster aesthetic.
Anytime anyone tells you, "Oh, I was into that before," it's. Yeah, all right, cool. Good job, hipster. Hipster.
I'm sorry, the big thing for me is that this is awesome because it kind of gets back to like the grassroots of Kickstarter where you're trying to support small-time creators and they're going to be making this content that is like from their hearts, and so that's a really exciting thing for me, and just the variety that we're going to go over. I mean, I started looking at all the different zines, and I was like, wow, there's like so many of these. I'm like, this is so exciting because you can pick from a bunch of different worlds and a bunch of different ideas, and that is like, I got really excited after I figured out what the heck this was. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
The turnaround on them is real quick too, so some of them are blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah. These Kickstarters tend to be a little bit shorter, and this does kind of contribute to what we were talking about, like last week with the democratization of the RPG space, which is, and it links perfectly into what you were just saying, which is like, there are some incredibly specific ideas for games you'll find here with incredibly specific like systems.
Right.
You know?
And that inspiration too. I mean, because you can read a whole bunch of these and then get inspiration to make something of your own, which is really awesome too. There's just tons of ideas. Like, I love it. I love all the idea building and everything. We have Mike. Hello, Mike. Oh, I think we already said hello to Mike.
We did.
And Gerard is like, thanks for acknowledging me.
You are a person and you have value, Gerard.
That's awesome. Well, since I am not an expert in zines, then, I mean, you guys are going to really be like, you're going to be carrying the show this time.
Oh, no. Oh, no. The weight of the show is on our shoulders.
That's right. So let's get started here.
So really the products will be carrying the show.
Well, that's very true.
That's what we want to look at.
That's very true. There's been some amazing art, too, on some of these that I was looking through, you know? So this first one is Bone Age by Bill Edmunds, and he's actually in chat right now, so if you guys have any questions that you want to swing by him about this, make sure to go ahead and leave them in chat for him, since he's right here right now. Now, I was looking at the setting for this, weird school role-playing. What is that setting?
Well, I mean, I think what Bill's trying to kind of riff on here is the concept of like the OSR, the old school role-playing kind of movement, which is sort of based on more like the Appendix N material from Dungeons and Dragons. So it's really kind of highlighting like weirdness, like weird crap, and it's not like Tolkien-esque, it's not high fantasy, it's very kind of, it's like strange.
Yeah, because you have like
this has a very Gamma World kind of vibe for me.
Does it?
Like first edition, very early Gamma World type of vibe, where it's, you know, oh, there's this whole strange world with all these strange creatures inhabiting it, and you're one of the weirdos.
Yeah.
This was a really interesting setting to start reading about here, because you're in this, Neo-tribe sort of era, and like, there's dinosaurs and stuff walking around, or apes or something like that?
Pterodactyls at the very least, and then there's turtle apes and ape turtles. Like those are your villains. Those are the villain species.
Turtle apes and apes, and because they're aliens and stuff like that have come down and everything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And all of that is inside kind of a kind of Neolithic, Stone Age time period. So you're not. It's like pre-Iron Age, and you're working with like bone weapons and wood weapons. So this is like ringing a lot of bells for me. This is like really hitting some like serious like Dark Sun vibes. This is hitting.
Yes, I love that.
Right?
I really like that a lot.
Yeah, this is very similar to MCC too, Mutant Crawl Classics. That's very tribal based and going out and there's aliens and weirdness. But again, that's like a post-apocalyptic kind of world where there's a lot of old tech lying around. Whereas this is less of that.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've been kind of following the creation of this project on Instagram, and if you check out Bill Edmunds' Instagram, which is like @Radagast and then the art is done by Jack Woyak, and his Instagram is @BadAshkey.
Bad Ashkey.
That's on Instagram, and you can follow both of them. But I've been seeing this art coming up for like months now, and I've been like kind of getting primed for Zine Quest with these two projects. And so I have to say, like when the first time I saw it launched, I just looked right at the art and I saw that map.
It looks good.
I was like, I gotta have that map.
And Dr. Gloryhogg says, still a better love story than Twilight. I would have to agree with that. And Kabuki Kid says the art gives me a Pushhead vibe, which is really awesome. And it's Dark Crystal meets Tarzan.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Oh, that is great. I love it. I love to hear that.
Oh, that's an excellent way of describing that. Like, I really, really like that. Okay. So the PDF copy of this is $8, and the printed copy is $16. This is what I love about these zines, guys, is the fact that you get this whole built world
right
for, I mean...
under $20.
Right?
And it's going to be a saddle stitched one too, which is really nice in terms of zines. That'll be really high quality.
I like that.
This is probably one of the ones that's on the polished end of the spectrum.
Polished end of the spectrum?
Right,
okay,
I think
okay.
just if you scroll down, you can get a sense of what the final one's going to look like, perhaps.
Okay, we'll
well,
scroll down.
I know,
the character sheet
Now look
was
at
good.
this right here. This is great. Under the stats, we see just a kind of an array of sort of D&D-like stats. But the stats are taken out and the modifiers are put in, which is the only thing that you use, right?
Oh, that's really nice.
So right there, it
makes it a lot easier for people coming into the movement and stuff, and then you can make your calculations real quick, and then you have your like little things that your modifiers that you have for the dice and everything. It's like it makes it very nice and simple.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yeah. That's totally good.
It's my understanding that this game has a kind of OSR vibe to it, so it should be fairly compatible with whatever OSR thing you have sitting around. But also that there are some intrinsic systems built into it, and I mean, dollars to donuts, can't beat it. Can't beat it.
They called out Labyrinth Lord specifically, and that's one of those old school kind of crunchy ones, which is good to see. And then you got some example pages, so you kind of know what you're getting into here. And
for these zines, what is like the usual page count on these? Is it like in that like little? I know they're little tiny books usually.
20 to 50, somewhere in like they're never.
Oh really?
They're not generally very big. Yeah.
I was expecting them to be smaller than that, but that seems like a lot to me.
You can sometimes
still a lot of writing.
That are like 6-8 pages, but like those ones feel kind of like underwhelming when you hold them in your hand. I've noticed in Zine Quest in particular that you're sort of looking like at the 24 to 42 page.
Okay.
Seems pretty common.
And if you kind of look at these, you can even see that page up there.
Like this one is going to be.
It's going to divide down the middle, and that'll be 2 pages. So
right.
They're not traditionally huge. They're like a lot of times they're in the digest format where they're not full size books.
I kind of love that though. I love having that little digest book. Size book that you can flip through and stuff like that. And I don't know.
Stick it on your shelf next to all your novels. It'll fit.
It's something about what was it? Hashtag killing trees last week, was it? Right? Yeah, it's like, it has that feel to it, like hashtag killing trees on there. So Kabuki Kid is saying he did a bunch of Metallica covers once upon.
Pusshead, not
yes, Pusshead. Yes,
Pusshead.
Yes. My mistake, Kabuki Kid. Kabuki Kid knows everything, I swear. So knowledgeable. Thank you. It's got familiar and new mechanics, and they're asking us to help name some of the weirdos. I could see that spider as Adam.
I'll be a weird spider creature. Who doesn't want to be a weird spider creature?
Why not?
Everyone loves spider creatures. Nothing.
Is it a tribe as the base unit of Civ, or what does that mean?
Civilization. Is the tribe the basic unit of the civilization, or is civilization some other mechanic?
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
You can decide that for yourself,
sense.
Richard Newby. You can make your world how you want to see
Well,
it.
if you look at the classes that are in there, it sort of leads
It's
you
like
to...
chieftains,
I think
like
they
you're
were
an
up
outcast
here.
because you challenged the chieftain
Right.
and you bounced.
It's all the classes seem to be kind of like roles.
There we
that
go,
you'd be
here we
playing
go.
in the tribe, and they're all really cool.
Right, the Beast Stalker, the Marrow Warrior, the Mutant, the Untouchable, and the Wing Rider. I really love the fact that you guys are the tribe and everything. There's always something about role-playing a tribe.
Yeah.
Because it immediately knits all of your role players together because they're a tribe and they're supposed to function together as a unit and help each other out. It gives people a totally different point of view, I think, coming at it. I think it's a very easy thing to get people together to play and have not as many issues with, I want to go this way and do this. I want to go that way and do this, with a tribe. How do you go?
With the Wing Riders, if you ever wanted to play Sectars, that toy from the 80s. You can just play Sectars, the role-playing game with this. You just all be Wing Riders, riding insects.
I think it's
Am I the only one who remembers that show?
Of course, you look at the thing, because the glove. You put your hand in a glove to do all the
and all the insects have 5 legs because you
Well, then they
put
have
your
a
hand
couple
on it.
plastic legs hanging off the
I
front.
guess, yeah.
Pretty sure
I'm
they
trying to remember, but those things were great.
Oh, well, yeah, they were really cool. They were really
Super cool.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I am interested in seeing how the Wing Rider interacts with the rest of the party. Because usually when you're the guy who jumps on a mound and flies off,
and you're like, peace, guys, have fun.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see. But I do like the way the map looks. Looks kind of like a hex crawl. I'm a sucker for OSR. I'm a sucker for these two creators. I follow them on Instagram.
Well, as a wing rider, wouldn't you be like, everybody be like, hey, like, can't I get a ride on that? Like, you know, you become like
Get your own
the mom with the bus full of people on the back of your wing rider. I mean,
Get your own
all right,
giant
guys,
ass.
everybody keep their hands to themselves and get on the wing rider. All right, well, the whole point of this is, would you guys back this campaign?
I would. This sounds great. I love post-apocalyptic stuff. And I know it's not, but I still kind of get that vibe off of it. I love weird role-playing. I love Gamma World. You know, this hits all those notes for me. Looks really polished, looks really slick. I like it. I like MCC. I like Gamma World. I've got a bunch of different versions of Gamma World. I've got the one version of MCC that's out. So, you know, I've got a bunch of other post-apocalyptic games. I would totally play this and run it.
Okay.
Yeah, consider it backed. I'm definitely going to be picking this one up. Putting it into the old collection. You know, the second I saw the cover, I was like, well, I can't say no to that. It's too pretty. It's too much the thing I want to be part of. So, yeah, backed for sure. How about you?
I think so, because when I was going through this, like I said, I really liked that tribe aspect of it. And overall, I just enjoy reading other people's settings because I feel like that just builds like ideas for me in my campaigns and what I want to do if I find something in there. So at $8 for a PDF, I would totally back this. Like, absolutely. $8, spend it on getting the PDF and then, you know, print it out, read through it on my own and stuff. Like, the art though is, I like the art, but my kid probably would not like the art in the house. So that's why I wouldn't probably get the actual printed copy. Because as soon as my kids saw this come up, they were like, what is that? Is that scary? I was like, no, look away, child, look away.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
You should watch Ghostbusters by yourself.
Join us
at night.
Do you want to come role play at night, little kid?
Hey, Bill, thank you for joining the stream, man. It was great talking to you, and we're really excited about the project. So
Absolutely.
See you out there.
Absolutely. And, you know, we appreciate you hanging out in the comments and answering any questions for our viewers. We always appreciate that whenever people show up to do that, because we don't always have all the answers for all of you guys. So it's always nice to get that straight from the mouth. Moving on here, we have Don't Look. This is a short horror RPG by Quinn Milton. The art and design are also by Quinn, and this has like a modern style theme to it. Reading about this one here, I'm gonna look back on my notes here. A horror-based LARP. Now, for those of our viewers who might not be fully into RPGs and stuff, can you guys explain to us what a LARP is?
Well, we'll try to without being too mean. Go ahead, Adam.
So LARPs are...
You guys don't LARP?
I LARPed for probably a period of about 4 or 5 years. LARPs are live-action role-playing games, and so they tend to be they can be GM-less. There's a lot of times there's a wandering player who's inhabiting a character who's also kind of the rules adjudicator. They're not really dice-based. You either use cards or rock, paper, scissors or some other kind of method for determining what happens. And you have sometimes a character sheet, sometimes you don't. This one sounds like maybe you don't necessarily need one. But yeah, you fully inhabit the character. It's kind of like improvisational theater and a role-playing game all in one.
So I have a quick question for you guys. Do you find a lot of people in theater do LARPs?
I find like a lot of theater people end up doing role-playing nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, with the AP movement that's kind of like taken the RPG industry by storm, I feel like those theater kid extroverts have like found a place where they can do.
They're like, oh my gosh, I can do what I want to do here.
Paying attention to me, and I love it.
Oh, hey, I'm sure it's fine. I will say that some of that is not to my taste. I mean, Adam and I grew up role-playing like a certain way, and, you know, we're old men and it's hard to change. No one wants to, you know, gatekeep anybody's fun, but I think that probably the kind of like, almost the kind of like theatrical melodrama that is really sort of like culturally starting to show up in role-playing, it's probably not where I live.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, to your point, it was kind of the extroverts when I was LARPing who ran the LARP and were the dominant forces in it, and I kind of, as an introvert, sat in the back and amassed power behind the scenes. Well, because
Nobody's paying attention to me. What?
Right. No one came after me.
Are
and
you
so
saying
by
that?
the end
Yeah.
of it, I had this massive pool of resources because it was a Vampire the Masquerade one, and I was a Giovanni.
Well, that's
I just
exactly
had
what
this
you do.
massive pool
Yeah.
of resources, and
Every Vampire the Masquerade game, like, everybody's your friend, but nobody's your friend.
Right.
And you just secretly go around and just try to, like, mess up everybody else's plans in that
it was
game.
funny because one of the people said, "Well, I didn't even know you were playing this," and I said, "It's called Vampire the Masquerade. You're supposed to be pretending to be human, and nobody's really supposed to know what you're up to." So one could
my
argue I'm the
gosh.
best at this out
That's
of all of
awesome.
us here.
That's awesome. So Dr. Gloryhogg says was that you LARPed once in college. I have to say,
We all did it once in college, man.
right? I've
Give it the old college try.
I've also LARPed, and I did LARP Vampire the Masquerade because, well, it's Vampire the Masquerade,
What
and I
clan
love
were
it.
you? What was your clan?
Malkavian, but I'm not like the crazy Malkavian. I'm the undercover crazy Malkavian that you don't realize is crazy until you're like, ah, crap.
You weren't the fish Malkavian, like
No.
holding the fish and
The
trying to
fish
kiss
mal.
it?
No, I get all the
fish
good
mal.
ideas. I get everybody following me and stuff, and they're like, "Wait a second, this plan is bunk. What the heck just happened? Why are we going here? What's
This
going
person's a
on?
lunatic.
Right? What's happening?"
Those are the best Malkavians.
Right? Exactly. But I always enjoy a horror theme RPG or LARP style game because I love hearing about monsters in here. And this particular one I was reading, I'm gonna go back to my notes here. What was I reading about this one that was super interesting? Is this the one where it's the end of the world? Oh no, wait, you were talking about the don't look portion of it.
This is
Yeah.
one where you're like kind of hiding from a monster. It looks to me like because I will say that this Kickstarter doesn't really tell you a whole lot about
Right.
what's in the game. It's kind of secretive. It's a little coy.
Yeah, it's
you
how does
know?
this work? Because that was what I
Yeah.
kept thinking as I read it. Was
And you're like,
how
wait a
does that
second.
function?
Okay.
How does it
Right.
work?
Right. So I feel like based on what beats they're willing to show you in the rules portion, it looks like it's kind of playing a game where there's a monster that is like systematically stalking a group of people. Kind of like, any slasher movie or any kind of,
Right.
like The Ring or something where there's a group of characters and they're going to get picked off one by one and then there's the last person left at the end. And that the mechanics are kind of designed around evading the monster. And a lot of that comes into not looking at it, which is why it says don't look.
Right.
So don't look at the monster, which is kind of something, it's one of those tropes you see in horror movies.
I
where
was
Bird
just
Box-
gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't they just make a movie about
Yeah,
that
there's Bird
lately?
Box. There's
Yeah.
that book Lexicon that's about like this word that can kill that you can't look at. And the
Oh,
guy
yeah,
sees
that's
part of it
right.
and gets it in his eye, and it's
But I feel like in any horror movie from almost any era, there's these scenes that are very tropey where like the person is sort of looking in the other direction and then like the monster's coming into focus behind them. And then there's a particular move that you can make in this game where you look at the monster in a mirror, and that's the classic thing. Like you look in the mirror and then they like do the hit really quick with
Right.
the violins and you're like, oh, it's Candyman, he's here, you know what I'm saying? So
or you get Sigourney Weaver with the alien, where she's
alien.
pressing her head up against the
Yeah,
tile, and the
uh-huh.
alien very slowly comes into frame, and the second mouth comes out of the
Yeah.
first mouth.
I really like the idea of this, but with there not being as much information, I'm not as a big fan of that particular part. Like, I want to see a little bit more stuff. Now, since this is more of my introduction to zines, do you feel like a lot of these campaigns go more weighted towards like this, where you don't have as much information, or maybe it's not like fully fleshed out, or more like the last one that we had just looked at, Bone Age, which seems like they had sample pages in there and stuff like that. Like, when people are going to look at zines on Kickstarter, what do they usually find?
I don't know that this is necessarily a question of it not having the sample pages and everything else so much as they're trying to build an air of mystery around it.
Okay, so they're trying to bring the theme to the actual Kickstarter with it.
You see, I think you're being kind of generous because if you look at it, it says that the creator, Quinn Milton, designed and illustrated it, right? But I think there's only one picture. I think we only get to see one image.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, did they know what they were doing when they set this up? Is this like not a fully fleshed out concept? It doesn't look. If this was any Kickstarter, what I'm seeing here does not fill me with confidence.
Okay,
I'm not.
okay.
I'm not bubbling over.
So overall, then, would you guys back this?
I'm gonna pass.
You're gonna pass?
I'm gonna pass on Don't Look.
Yeah.
I kind of got hooked on the great cover.
Yeah.
Because it has almost sort of a Charles Burns look to it.
It really does have a black hole look to it.
Right.
It looks great.
I'm a big Charles Burns fan, and I saw this art, and I was like, oh, maybe this will have a Burnsy kind of like body horror vibe, and then it get kind of just, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing that's really pulling me in. What about you, man?
Oh,
I mean,
okay. So
if it speaks to you, the PDF is $5.
Right.
If it doesn't, then you can pass on it. As you know, my LARPing days are behind me. Yeah, a video might have helped, to Bill Edmunds' point. Something to give us some kind of context for how this thing works. Because how do they know that I've looked at the thing or I've looked? That's the question I have. This
is another really big thing too. And Bill brought up a great thing with perhaps a video would have helped. So in the board game industry, if you don't have a video up for your board game and like little gifs of like how things are happening and stuff like that, it's almost a discredit to the campaign. You're like, well, what the heck? Are the rules even done for this? And then like people will be like upset. Like the board game community, guys, is super hardcore about their Kickstarters, okay? They will cut somebody about like being a month late, all right? And they will never back again.
Maybe you just have to put up one of those horrible internet gore pictures or something so you'll know if someone looks, because they'll go,
I just looked. I just looked.
Yeah, we know you looked. So.
But I think that was the one thing that I felt was missing, at least having some art, like a video with some art and then somebody talking about the campaign would have made a lot of these like very like immersive, like where you start listening to it and you're like, oh, okay, this kind of sounds neat because you have like that little bit there, you know.
$5 for a PDF,
well,
$10 for a printed copy.
That's true. That's true.
They're not blowing out the budget on their video production.
I think that Richard in the feed actually makes a really strong point where he says LARPs are growing in the indie RPG scene, and this is really true. LARPs used to be this big scale thing where there were, and you still see those, right? Like the Nordic style LARPs and like the fantasy LARPs that like take place on campgrounds and take 300 people and all this stuff. But there's a lot of people who are publishing these small 1 room, 1 night LARPs. And there's a lot of like important developers that are doing work in that space.
That's what John Wick does at a lot of these smaller cons. Is he'll come in and he'll run a one room LARP for them.
Yeah.
And he'll go run these things. It's very small, very intimate.
Having the small 1 room LARP things, it's just like. What are those where you go to dinner and somebody gets murdered?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's exactly it. Like, except everybody's partparticipating.
These concepts are not far from that. Like,
right,
there's
right.
one that's about, like, you're a bunch of Vikings or something, and you're all back at the lodge because, like, the king Viking has died, and you got to figure out who's going to be the next Jarl or whatever. Who's going to be that? And you each get a little character, and you got to, like present your claim and try and force your claim.
I love
right?
that.
So I mean, it's like these are interesting concepts. I mean,
I'd be interested in that.
The ideas.
I'd be interested in that. That would be fantastic. But for this one, I am going to have to pass because I don't have enough information, and I'm a board gamer, and I expect many things from people. So I'm sorry.
But if you got next $5 lying around?
Yeah, extra $5,
might
and
be worth it.
If I was super curious about it, I mean, $5 is $5. Like I wouldn't hesitate in paying $5 to see what all this is about. Absolutely. Next up, we have Casket Land. Oh, Brendan just went ahead and gasped and everything, so this is going to be really good.
Cruach.
Casket Land.
Cruach.
Well, you go ahead and lead this one off then. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, so Casket Land Cruach is the continuation of Mary Enger's Casket Land series that she launched last year. And I didn't think it was going to be a series, but here we are. It's Zine Quest 2, and there's a new Casket Land out. This is a really great setting, everyone. I am very excited about Casket Land. It's an occult Western themed game that takes place in a town that is surrounded by caskets that are kind of like growing up out of the ground like a forest, right?
Okay.
And so
hence the name.
Exactly. So all the action that takes place in the game, it takes place inside this very small area, this little territory that's just kind of dripping with this very like Western and Gothic horror. And if you scroll down, you can see some of the things that she lists as influences, like this kind of Southern Gothic vibe, and then she puts a Mad Max vibe in there. This is all stuff that I find to be like really compelling. Again, this is a Powered by the Apocalypse game, and I am a sucker for Powered by the Apocalypse.
Well, and before you go any further with Powered by the Apocalypse, make sure and tell our viewers what the Apocalypse style games are.
Oh, okay. So
just like a real quick. So in
yeah,
case...
absolutely. Powered by the Apocalypse is a game system designed by Vincent and Megawee Baker, and it was first in Apocalypse World. And rather than having a character sheet where you're like gaining levels and gaining skill points and stuff, your character affects the story by using little quirks called moves. And the moves are not, sometimes they're about like doing damage or finding things, but very often they're just about generating story and moving the story forward. Apocalypse World games also have a system that has a scale from success without consequence, success with consequence, and then something bad happens. One of those three things, whenever you pick up dice and roll dice, one of those three things is going to happen. So you can see some of those kind of systems being incorporated on like larger game studios, like for instance Fantasy Flight has really, well, before they mothballed the whole thing, but really that style of role playing is huge in the Powered by the Apocalypse space.
And the important thing also to know about Powered by the Apocalypse is you advance through failure.
Some of them.
Some, yeah.
That's Dungeon World.
Dungeon
not
World
all
and,
of them.
well, Apocalypse World too. It's like when you fail a roll, a lot of times that's when you mark XP.
Okay. Which makes sense
for
because
a lot
like
of them.
you have to learn for failure, from
Right.
failure.
You don't learn
Okay,
anything
that's
from
interesting.
success.
Well, that's
I never
true.
have anyway.
That's true.
Then again, I haven't really learned from failure either, so maybe I'm doing it wrong.
I should have so much learning with all this failure over here, guys. Like, I should be an expert at so many things right now,
But yeah,
okay?
you get these playbooks, and it's when you sit down to make a character, you pick a playbook, and then you check off things, and so it'll give you like a stat array sometimes, and then it'll give you, choose 3 things, and those will be either bonuses to your roll, or they'll be a bonus to your roll, or they'll be another move or something like that.
Okay.
And and it'll be like a 1 through 6 on 2d6 is a fail, a 7 through 9 is a success with consequence, a 10 plus is you succeed and you do whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that the concept of what your character is encapsulated inside the playbook rather than inside a class or with a point buy, which is like what you might expect from a more traditional RPG.
Right.
Now, I will say, when we're discussing Casket Land, that there is a little bit of a come on here where Marie Enger says everything you need to play is in the book. And I got Casket Land 1, and I was so stoked to open it up and to start reading it, and the first page says, go to casketland.com and get all the playbooks, right? So the book that you get actually just has the setting, and it has the antagonists, and it has a lot of the stuff that you'll encounter and make the game kind of spicy and fun. But the character stuff is downloadable online for free.
Did they not address that in this one? Is it not included, or we don't know?
Well, there's a couple different ways to acquire the zine here. You can either get the new one if you bought last year, which is basically just an expansion of the setting with new villains and new antagonists and new problems. Or you can get both last year's and this year's, and last year's will come with all the material from that one and this one again. But she does note on the Kickstarter that if you go to casketland.com and click on it, all the rules you need to play and all the playbooks are for free there. So,
yeah, that's what Richard was saying. The core rules are free to everyone and can be downloaded. That's always nice because sometimes getting into some of these, you don't realize if they're going to be labor intensive with rules, or not with rules, but with checks and stuff like that, until you get the book and then you're like, crap, like I don't have the time to run this, or I don't want to run all this stuff with all these extra modifiers. Like that's not the type of group that I have over all the time. So being able to download that ahead of time and check it out and be like, oh, okay, like this base rule set is fine, like I can go ahead and introduce this to new players or to the group that I want, and then go ahead and go out and buy the book and get the actual setting and all the back information and everything. That's actually really nice. I really enjoy that. That's cool. And the art in this is really cute, guys.
Oh boy, yeah. This is all designed and illustrated by Marie Enger, who is a comic book artist. And it's my understanding that she's actually really good at it. So she does a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, you can see if the work here speaks for itself. But again, I have Casket Land 1, and my original thought was to come and to show it to you today. Be like, here, look, see, I got it. It's here. It's real nice. and I left it at home.
Oh,
I know.
that's it. You're off the show. You're off the show. That was all of it.
Oh, no.
That was your chance. All right.
No.
We blew it.
Unprepared. Unprepared.
Mark XP. Mark some XP.
That's right. Get your XP.
I have maxed out this playbook. I must take on a new playbook in the next session.
Well, and this one is a very polished looking
Oh, yeah.
zine. Like, you're going to be getting your money's worth here. Let me look at the price here. What was it? 10 for both PDFs or 24 for both physical copies?
Right. So if you don't have the prior one and you need both, but you can just get the new one if you have the other one. But yeah, I mean,
Well,
you
I
would
mean,
use
I
that.
have
but
it. I'm gonna, I shouldn't jump to the. Just shouldn't. If I was gonna back this, just as a for instance,
Right.
I would only get the new one because.
Well, I mean,
have
are you
the
going to
other
back
one.
this? I mean, that's kind of part of the show. You are? Yes?
Yeah.
You're going to back it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I encountered Marie at Gen Con this last year and talked to her a little bit, and she's awesome. This project's awesome. I hope there's a Casket Land 3 next year. I hope
Ooh,
that,
okay.
What I kind of look. Here's a theory. Does anybody want to hear a theory? My theory is that what she's doing is she's just releasing these like once a year and then writing the new material, and then like in 3 or 4 years,
Ooh, like a
there's
big
gonna
one?
be a big book. That's what I am guessing.
That would be exciting.
I could be wrong, but it may actually be like a little.
Maybe she'll watch this and be like, that's a good idea. Hold on.
RBK comes in hot with the Mike Magnolia reference from Hellboy.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And let's see. It reminds me. What is it? No, I'd level Bill Edmunds. I'd level up at least 5 times per week with all the failures.
True.
We are right there with you. Like, that's what it's all about, though. You have to fail. You have to fail to get ahead. It sounds bad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I would definitely back this one at. Let me relook at stuff. I don't know. I'm interested in the settings. I'm gonna have to go back and look. Maybe I'll download. I'm in between the PDFs and both physical copies because I feel like I want both physical copies, but I need to read more of the rules online and stuff like that first, I think.
The $24 is a little spicy for a zine, but it's at the same time, you're getting the prior one, you're getting the adventure, and then you're getting the
A
new...
little spicy for a zine.
Yeah.
So,
I actually, to be totes honest, to be full disclosure, I didn't actually back Casket Land 1. I was going to, and then something came up. And it was actually gifted to me by my friend Joel.
Oh, that was nice.
And he went all in on the last one. He got because it came with the book. It came with this big handkerchief that like a cowboy would wear, but it has the Casket Land map like silk screened on it. And then there's a GM screen. And the GM screen, I have to say, is just like a next level GM screen because it's not old style where it's like really big and you can't see over it. It's seriously like 3 inches tall. And you can just sit there with your notes and cause it's a PBT GM.
A little tiny one.
Yeah,
That's
you don't roll
awesome.
dice. You just react. So you just need something to cover your notes.
That's
really
fantastic.
Yeah.
And Bill says, is this a book of campaign fronts since the playbooks aren't included?
Yeah, you could say that. I think
Yeah.
you could say that. Yeah, because it introduces some new antagonists and then these new problems in the Casket Land area. So fronts is what they call it in Apocalypse World, right? Is what they call the threats. It's always a little different in each one. The thing about Apocalypse games is that everybody tries to kind of manicure the vocabulary a little bit for each one. So I think that fronts is probably a good word for it.
yeah,
Okay.
you'll see that happen a lot. You'll see a lot of systems get stuck on the side of Apocalypse World, and
People say that. People
All
say
right.
that. Now, last note before we move on.
Okay.
Like there's a level where a stretch goal everybody gets enamel pins. All right?
Oh, that's right.
So I'm just gonna ask you, the YouTube public, please, will you back Casket Land so I can get an enamel pin?
You just
please,
want
for
the
my
pin.
jacket?
You're like, please, I just need
I want
pins,
the pin for
guys.
my jacket. I'm
Okay.
calling away, and he's like, who's this
The
guy?
PDF's $10.
I have all of these old Vampire the Masquerade pins that are just in a drawer where I'm like, I paid money for these, and
Yeah, those are worth money now.
Guys.
If you want them, you should just
I should just sell them then.
Okay, guys, so also on Kickstarter, they have these little moon purses if you want that you can put your pins in. So just FYI,
moon
guys,
purse.
yeah, you can go ahead and get a little moon
I
purse.
think it's called a messenger bag if you're a man.
and then you
It's
put your little pins in
a
there,
moon
okay?
messenger
So
bag.
Hey,
in
all
case
right.
you're interested.
I'm fine with that. That sounds good to me. I'm forward thinking.
All right, and then this next one here, you know what? I was making a decision on PDFs or physical copy. I'm gonna go for PDFs on Casket Land because I totally forgot about this next one that we're gonna be talking about. Oh my goodness, hold on, let me fix my sound before I start this.
Are you clipping? Oh my god, have we been clipping?
Oh my god, no, not clipping, just the actual sound on my computer so we don't get blasted with the sound of this thing with the video, yeah.
Oh, there's actually a video on this one.
There is actually a video.
I didn't, I didn't, the others didn't have video.
No,
Right,
and I'm
this one did.
excited. I'm so excited.
This person had a phone camera and was able to make it.
Man,
That's
where do you think they took this?
It's just the drawing, and then they're flicking the lights on and off.
Yeah.
Just shake it a little bit.
It looks like Super Cabinet of Dr. Calgary.
But
I do dig that.
Yeah.
This
is where we do the epilepsy trick flooding, just in case.
It adds so much, though, for people who, especially from, like I said, the board game industry and stuff like that. Like, I love it. It brings something to your campaign, guys, especially when other people apparently aren't doing it. So this is an Edwardian fantasy, and this is by, how do you say the first name?
Ollie
Jeffery. Okay, and art by Kasha Mika and Harriet Milton.
Sure.
Okay, well,
That
I'm
sounds
sorry
good.
if I butchered anybody's name on there, okay? This thing, like, as soon as Edwardian fantasy came into mind, I was like, oh my god, there's gonna be awesome backstabbing in this game. Yes, like, this is what I want. Like, because, you know, that sort of thing, they'd send horrible messages with flowers and, like, that's the sort of era I want to be a part of. It's like, I hate you, here's a flower. So, can you guys tell me a little bit about this campaign?
Adam, I feel like I've been talking a lot, bro. What you got?
Sure. So the Edwardian fantasy genre, and the way that they've described this is kind of a stealth-based combat game. So if you're familiar with our RPG Blades in the Dark, which is a PBTA game, or if you have played the video games Thief or Dishonored, this probably hews closest to Dishonored in terms of themes and tone. You're, one of these kind of outside on the edges type of people going around. If you act too violent, it increases the chaos, which was a game mechanic in the Dishonored game. If you went through through an area and you just kind of killed your way through it, it got really chaotic and weird things started happening. Things started going kind of crazy. So it really does encourage kind of stealth, but it also kind of encourages that bidding up or that pushing your luck kind of thing where you're, okay, I'm going to try to push my luck to really get through this. And it is a card-based mechanic based off of blackjack. So you can try to do better and try to get more information and take your time, or you kind of run right through and do it as quick and dirty as you can. So there is a lot of different ways that you can approach it. It kind of, rewards you for things like guile here, rewards you for guile, it rewards you for stealth. You don't have to do that, though. If you just kind of want to murder hobo your way through a scenario, that's also an option if you want to deal with the after effects and everything else. It's really kind of a neat idea, and that whole idea of just kind of pushing your luck and encouraging you to just I just want to go a little bit further. I want to try a little bit more, and then, I busted.
Everybody in the comments is really excited about this. We have Mike saying, I'm digging the cover on this one, and a fatal paper cut, which I love that name, a fatal paper cut. That's awesome.
Nice.
Says, I'm listening. Yeah, this one, I totally forgot as we were going through and we got to the end. I was like, oh yeah, this was my favorite one. It's
really
right up my alley. I like being the sneaky person, and that's kind of my jam. I'm all about the Assassin's Creed, and I love that you went ahead and compared it to Thief and everything like that to give some people who might not be.
They call it out in here too, as well. They mention Thief in here when they talk about it, but
might not be knowledgeable about that and just bringing it back, so a lot more general crowd will be able to go ahead and connect to it immediately.
Yeah, for sure. And younger crowds, they know video games,
right?
And that's what's really helpful to kind of understand these things. If you can compare it to a video game, that does help a lot.
That'd be fantastic.
This one, it definitely does have that Dishonored vibe to it. You're gonna be, even the art kind of has that Dishonored look and feel to it, and so you're gonna be playing that type of character. You're probably gonna be playing somebody wrong, somebody who wants to get revenge against the established order. And how do you do that? How do you go around it? How do you get through all these scenarios and situations you find yourself in? So it's got a lot of different play styles that you can do and a lot of different scenarios. I think there's just a lot of cool things that I think you could do with a game like this.
There's a cool story to it. I think it's this kind of strange kind of class war story,
right?
About like this village where everything was like the worst, until somebody figured out how to monetize the fact that it was the worst. And then all these like nobles show up and start like, you know, living high on the hog. So you're trying to bring these guys down. And my first thought was, that sounds great. I was like, that sounds really fun. Ollie Jeffery, if you follow his work like at all, he's kind of like a darling in like the indie scene. Like if you follow any of the Gauntlet style podcasts, or you follow that scene at all, then you definitely know his name for a lot of designs and a lot of like very well regarded designs. Again, this goes back to what we were discussing last week, which is trophy. This game is not a trophy game, but it is a hack of trophy, which is kind of something that you see a lot in the indie design space, which is somebody finds a game that they really enjoy, but then they think, oh, well, how can I take it, rework the mechanic, and then make it even more specific. So when we were talking about that at the beginning, it's like the specificity that we're seeing emerging in role-playing, where we take this kind of, this idea that John Wick was talking about like 10 years ago. He was saying, what you see on the character sheet is what the game should be about, right? And just those things. And people are just really taking those and narrowing them down, and you're like, this is a game about assassins in a port town taking out nobles. That's this game. You can't do any other game with it. That's the game you're playing.
So Dr. Gloryhogg says, my favorite way to play a stealth game is sneak, sneak, run, slash, run, slash, hide, repeat. I don't know if you can play that exactly. I mean, I guess you could, but what you're going to be getting dishonors, and chaos and stuff like that.
If you do that.
And it might be problems down the road for you, Dr. Gloryhogg. This one looks really super polished, though. I love the art in it. I love the feel to it and stuff, which I feel like is really big for me for RPGs. Like, I want to, if I'm going to be immersed in the world, like, I want to feel the RPG, and like, I want to be in that world. And this one just really connected with me, because I want to be an Edwardian sneaky person that's out for revenge and gives people horrible flower messages and like all sorts of stuff. Like, that's what I want to do. All right, and this one here is, what is it? $6.50 and $10.50. Oh my gosh!
You have to back it based in British pounds.
Right, but in US dollars, $6.50 for the PDF and $10.50 for the physical copy. Right. Heck yes!
Yeah, and you get a full game for that. That's
holy cow!
There'll be a little bit of shipping on top of it. There'll be another £3 shipping on top of it. So throw another $4 for it.
I mean, Richard in the feed points out that it's being fulfilled by drive-through, which he's not stoked about. I gotta say, I wouldn't be stoked about that either. But that does mean that you're not going to have to pay international shipping.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll pay domestic shipping, despite the fact this is a UK-based project.
What don't you guys like about drive-through RPG? Am I opening up a box of worms here? Okay, hold on. Let me get really close.
Tune in for our next show. What we don't like about drive-through RPG, a 5-hour special.
Oh, a 5-hour special on that? Really? Jeez. All right. Well,
we haven't had good luck with drive-through RPG.
It can
quality
be
and
it can be hit or miss. It can be hit or miss.
Okay.
There's some stuff about their model that like I don't know necessarily works. I have questions. Is what they would say.
Really? Okay. Because the stuff I haven't gotten as much stuff as you guys, but the stuff that I've gotten from there has been okay. Like I've been happy with it, but I mean. I'm the board gamer, so I don't know.
That's good. You've had good experiences. I got some cards from there that were not great, and I've gotten some books from there that were not great.
If you get their stuff off of Kickstarter, where it's what's called offset printing, it's usually very, very good and not distinguishable from another book that you'd buy at a store. However, if you get their print-on-demand stuff, the quality drops noticeably.
Okay. All right. Well, would you guys back this RPG? Well, this zine.
Yeah,
RPG zine.
As much as this is a very polished game and obviously has a lot of like really significant chops behind it, I'm actually going to pass on this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
This kind of
just not your jam. Like.
Well, it goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about last week, where it's like I actually own a bunch of games that kind of do this already. Like for instance, Blades in the Dark was called out. I own Blades in the Dark. It's got. I mean, it doesn't speak to me enough to make me think, oh, I need this, rather than any of the X number of other role-playing games I have. So I'm actually going to let this one go, despite it's very high quality.
Yeah, I think there's some cool stuff I could take from this and put into something like For Coin and Blood, which was a Alan Parr game, which I think would be really cool. I don't have Blades in the Dark. I've never picked it up. I wouldn't mind backing this for $14 just to get it and see what I could do with it. And to see, is it standalone runnable, or would I use it as a hack for for Coin and Blood or something like
Okay,
that.
and
I don't know.
A Fatal Papercut says Rob's Gaming World has featured a few games from there that seem really cool. And Bill Edmunds says, I will say that Drive-Thru RPG saddle-stitched books are very good, but they're limited to 48 pages.
You know, that's actually a good point. I got one of Robert Schwab's Shadow of the Demon Lord, kind of like mini books for one of the races from that game, and that's saddle-stitched. And that was print on demand, and it was
very nice.
It was great quality. It was great quality.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to say this was my number one. Like this is the one I wanted to play. It looks polished. It looks beautiful. It has a lot of ideas that I want to integrate into these sort of RPGs that I love playing, because I am more of that sneaky role-playing person. And yeah, like I'm just making fun of Gloryhoundd. Thanks, Dr. Gloryhogg. I'm so happy to have you on here making fun of me on stream. Excellent, thank you.
Everybody's sneaky in RPGs till they fail a sneak roll. Then it turns
That's very
into,
true.
Yeah.
And then like it hits the fan, but that's the whole fun of it, you know?
Yeah.
Then you're like, ah, crap, now what I gotta dig myself out of on
You
this.
really only need one person to fail.
You really gotta do.
You've got a whole party that's not rogues.
But then you get life experience for that, so.
Maybe.
Here I go killing again.
All right, so everybody in our comments, what zines are you guys backing, and would you back any of these zines? I want to know. So
Yeah, that is a great
Yeah,
question.
you know?
Because there's really a billion of them on,
Right.
on Kickstarter right now. And you kind of have to do some digging. You can't just type in Zine Quest and
Okay.
hope that they're all going to come up. Like Adam and I
That's a
were-
good note.
When we,
It's
yeah.
Zine Space Quest,
Yeah.
Zine Quest one word, Zine Quest 2, Zine Quest Space 2. It's
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. So kind of maybe. And then I actually had an easier time finding zines on my phone than I did on my laptop. When I was looking
Really?
at my laptop, it was a big pain in
Okay.
the butt. But then when I opened up Kickstarter on my phone, it was just all zines. So maybe the algorithm tripped and it fed it over to the computers. I don't know. But that is something to
okay.
consider. Is that you might not just be able to like click on a button and see all the zines. You might have to do a little,
Okay,
little
and
searching.
I don't remember. You guys were saying like there's a certain time of year when a lot of them come out. Is that
February.
Yep.
so? February. Why do people pick February for this to happen?
That is an excellent question. That is an
Okay.
excellent question. I suspect that maybe
everybody's trapped
there's
indoors over the winter. Starting going crazy.
the-
All the
Shining, they're all
people have just
banging
been
away on the
typing,
keyboard.
yeah.
All working their play.
I'm a bit more cynical. I think there probably was a lull, a noticeable lull in Kickstarters that they identified, and they talked to their marketing guy and they said, "What can we do with this? How can we fix this?"
Kabuki just needs to come over and help you out with like your computer, because Kabuki's
Yes.
like search engine shouldn't change on a phone. Kabuki's gonna come help you out.
Well, so Mark Zuckerberg can listen into you on the phone though, and then he can change the
Mr. Mark
algorithm.
Zuckerberg.
So he's the one
Listen
that
in
fixed
and
it.
about all the zines and stuff happening, and he's
Him
like,
and
"Oh, this is
Bezos-
great
him and
information." Hold
Bezos in
on.
their little underground volcano lair. We're listening into Brendan on the phone, and they're like, "Okay, we know what we need to do."
They have the pterodactyls and
Yep.
cages back there. Yeah, they're just waiting. They're
Panopticon,
waiting.
everybody. Hashtag Panopticon. I'm in the Panopticon. Anyway.
After depression of the holidays, people need to write. That makes total,
refund time?
tax
That's
refund
good.
time. Okay.
Yeah, I can
People
see
have
it.
$5 and $8 to back games. That makes sense.
I think we need to launch a Kickstarter for Sectors and relaunch that.
Yeah.
Well, first, yeah. I would run that by
gotta
the
get the brands
Insector's
for that.
license holder
Yeah.
first before you go on.
No one
Kickstarter.
has that license.
Well, thank
It's
you
gotta cost like $5.
for everybody who joined us today. We appreciate all of your comments and everything. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this show. Kabuki Kid says, I envisioned Zuckerberg like the man who fell to the earth watching like 100 monitors spying on everyone.
Or Ozymandias.
Ozymandias, yeah.
Yep.
That's terrible.
Watching all the TVs at the same time.
Oh no, that's like in my head now. Thanks, Kabuki. Well, join us next week. What are we going to talk about next week? Do we know?
We got more Kickstarters. There's
Lots
Monty
of Kickstarters?
Cook's. Monty Cook's got one that I really want to talk about, and then there was another one that was what was it? I wish I could remember, but the one that I keep seeing is Monty Cook, and that homie, we're gonna have to put that one up.
All right, and we're making this a thing then, yeah?
Yeah, let's make it a thing.
Yay!
Why not? Why not?
I'm so
tell
excited.
your friends. Tell your friends that there's this thing that you watch, or these goofballs talk about role playing games and stuff.
That's
And
right.
if you're into that kind of crap, then me and this guy, we do a podcast.
That's
It's
right.
just about that. It's called Full Metal RPG. You can see
Full
it.
Metal RPG. There's a
a toad.
toad
Yep.
and some cultists.
Where
Yeah.
you guys go in depth into things.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
absolutely. So
yeah.
if you want to know more, like this is just a tiny taste of things, you know? Like if you want to know more in-depth information about RPGs and what's coming out and what's happening in the community, absolutely. Like
Starship Troopers, would you like to know more?
oh, I want to know more.
Our most recent episode, episode 85, Game Balance, is a great place to start. So if you're new to Full Metal RPG, just jump right in with episode 85, Game Balance, and then please subscribe to that
That's
as well.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Oh, thank you for having us. Yeah, it's great. This is really fun.
All right, well, if you guys are into board games, make sure to check back with us tomorrow. We have our board game version of this. I'd back that Kickstarter. And we're going to be doing playthroughs of games later in the week. And, I mean, maybe we'll have to get together and do, like, a one-shot RPG sometime.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
You know?
we should do. You know what we should do is we should do Casket Land.
Ooh.
Since I got it.
I would love to do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all right. Well,
yeah.
maybe we'll talk about things, get some things in the works for you guys, okay? We will
Cool.
see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.